Hello, I'm Anna Foster, live from the Qatari capital, Doha. Over the next 10 minutes or so, we'll bring you our daily briefing with everything you need to know and all of the key updates from the 10th day of the US-Israel-Iran war. Well, the week has started with a dramatic surge in oil prices, passing $100 a barrel for the first time in 4 years. We'll take a closer look at the economic impact of the war. Iranians are divided over the appointment of their new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was killed on the first day of the war. We'll gauge reaction both within Iran and outside the country. And the fallout from the war has spread far and wide. In Australia, 5 members of the Iranian women's football team have taken refuge in a safe house and are seeking asylum, claiming fears for their safety if they go home. All of this while fighting continues across the Middle East, with heavy explosions reported in Tehran and Beirut, and Iranian missiles intercepted once again here in the Gulf. So let's start then with the impact that the war is having on the global economy, with a surge in oil prices and stock markets slumping as the war shows no sign of slowing down. The price of crude oil rose to more than $100 a barrel. That is the highest level since the Russian invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. The spike reflects concerns about the effective shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz shipping lane. About 20% of the world's crude oil flows through the strait, but in recent days, traffic has effectively ground to a halt. Well, Faisal Islam is our economics editor. People on the BBC's TikTok page have been asking why the prices at the pump have been rising so quickly. Faisal, you've said that this has the potential to be the biggest oil shock in history. So what could the impact be, both on ordinary people around the world, but also on the global economy?
Well, I mean, the impact is obvious. It's twofold. This is almost like a kind of war through economics, as well as the conventional sort of conflict that you're seeing in your part of the world. There's two ways that is manifesting itself. There's obviously, as you've just described, the gumming up of the Straits of Hormuz, long feared. It hasn't officially been closed, but we're seeing those that artery of energy flows just not functioning for both oil and for gas, and the tankers sort of lining up, ready to go. But on top of that, we've seen a sort of exchange of fire, both from Israel into Iran and from Iran into the Gulf, over energy infrastructure. We don't know the extent to which that was the strategic aim of that battle, but it's pretty clear that damage has been done. So those two things together is why I say this has the potential to be such a significant energy shock. And that is just talking about oil and gas. Also sort of trapped in the Gulf where you are, you have various derivative products of the petrochemical industry, whether it's urea, crucial for fertilizer and therefore for food supply at the time in which in the Northern Hemisphere they're sowing the crops for the future harvests. You've also got sulfuric acid, crucial in industrial processes. We've seen all sorts of commodities spike in price, and it's like a wave of inflation coming from the Gulf. Even though most of the physical supply is for Asia, the price impact is flowing out across the world. And of course, that's most obviously seen in those oil fuel derivatives, jet fuel, for example. And as you mentioned, petrol and diesel. Petrol and diesel, for example, here in the UK, going up 5p petrol just in a week, 10p on average. If you're diesel, warnings from the motoring organisations that you might need to be very careful about how you drive, which I think is unexpected, that this is coming home to the ordinary driver in the UK. We've seen footage from America about surprise from ordinary SUV owners about the extent to which gasoline prices are going up. And we know that the President and his party, the Republicans, are very sensitive to that. What have we had today? We had an astonishing spiralling of the crude oil price through the $100 barrier up to $115 in early trading. It then calmed down when energy ministers met and said they do what it takes in order to get energy prices down. They didn't actually agree to increase the stockpiles and to use the stockpile of oil that's out there for use. But that was enough to temper things. Oil prices remain around 100. They're still up significantly since the conflict began, not quite as high as we heard this morning.
Thank you, Faisal Islam, our economics editor. Well, Iranians are divided over the announcement that Mojtaba Khamenei is the country's new supreme leader. He is the son of the former leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was killed in US-Israeli strikes on the first day of this war. Thousands of pro-government supporters celebrated their new leader in the central square in Tehran, but those opposed to the regime have been leading chants calling for his death. And President Trump told US media they've made a big mistake. Well, people on the BBC News YouTube channel are commenting that the new regime seems exactly the same as the old one. Siavash Ardlan is a senior reporter for BBC Persian, and he explained more about what Mojtaba Khamenei's appointment could mean for the direction of the country and of the war.
Most Iranians have never heard his voice. Now, Mojtaba Khamenei is the supreme leader of Iran, a title that carries absolute power. Mojtaba Khamenei has lived almost his entire life out of public view. Yet his name has always been the stuff of speculation, whether he will succeed his father or not. He has never held public office, raising questions within the establishment about how well he will steer the country through a time of war and what may come next. But supporters argue he holds influence where it matters, with his deep ties to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, a force central to power in Iran. Mojtaba Khamenei studied theology in the holy city of Qom and spent a few years at the front during the 8-year Iran-Iraq war, hence his military credentials. He's been sanctioned by the U.S. Department of Treasury, and there are persistent, though unconfirmed, reports about his vast personal wealth. For the regime's core supporters, his succession brings renewed confidence at a moment when Iran is facing relentless military attacks from U.S. and Israel. Mojtaba Khamenei lost his father, mother, wife, and child to Israeli strikes. Now he has gained something else, power. Power that could either define a new chapter in Iran's history or make him the next high-profile target in Israel and U.S.'s war against Iranian leadership.
Well, BBC Persian has gathered messages from Iranians inside the country over the last 24 hours following the announcement of the new supreme leader. Their texts are read here by our colleagues.
Even the slimmest chance for a change no longer exists within the system. The assembly could not have selected anyone closer to the former leader, so everything will remain much the same. They don't even need to change their chants to support the name.
Why isn't there much information available about him so we can see how charismatic he actually is? They sent out mass texts saying he has become the leader. Now I'm just waiting for Trump's speech.
This means that nothing is going to change. It's the same path, perhaps even worse. Anyhow, I don't think the situation can continue. I don't think that it will last.
A BBC Verify investigation has led to questions over the US account of a strike on a school which killed 168 people in Iran. Here's Merlin Thomas with the details.
A new video shows a missile moments before it hit a building at an Iranian military base next to the school in Minab. By slowing the video down and zooming in, ammunition is clearly visible, which multiple weapons experts have confirmed to BBC Verify is a US Tomahawk missile. It can be seen landing just 200 meters from the school, where Iranian authorities said 168 people were killed, including 110 children. As the camera pans to the right, large smoke plumes can be seen in the background, billowing near the primary school. This suggests the area nearby had been hit before the missile seen in the footage detonates in the military base. The new video casts serious doubt on US President Donald Trump's claim that Iran was to blame for the strike on the school.
A couple of other developments to bring you today. And Lebanon says nearly 500 people have been killed in Israeli strikes since the conflict between Israel and the Hezbollah militant group began just over a week ago. Thick clouds of black smoke were seen on the skyline of the southern suburbs of Beirut on Monday morning as Israel continues its military operation in the south of the country. And the French President Emmanuel Macron is in Cyprus to show solidarity, he says, after a drone hit a British airbase on the island's southern tip. The French president said that when Cyprus is attacked, Europe is attacked, and announced that France will deploy 2 warships as part of the EU's naval mission to protect shipping in the Red Sea. The conflict has also today spread to the world of football, overshadowing Iran's final game in the Women's Asian Cup in Australia. Iranian state television called the women's football team traitors for not singing the national anthem ahead of their first match against South Korea. The women had been due to fly home after being eliminated, but the BBC understands that 5 members of the team have taken refuge in a safe house. President Trump has also got involved, demanding that the hosts grant the women asylum. Well, Katie Watson is our Australia correspondent and explained how the government there is reacting.
The spotlight's been on the Iranian women's football team ever since they stayed silent during the national anthem at their opening match against South Korea here on the Gold Coast for the Asian Women's Cup. They came in for some criticism back in Iran, accused of being warlike traitors, with commentators pushing for them to be dealt with harshly. In the subsequent two matches, they did take part in the national anthem, and there were concerns that they had been put under pressure by the regime to look like they were participating. Now, the women are staying in this hotel behind me. Yesterday, we saw 5 of the players leave the hotel and go into the protection of the Australian Federal Police. Activists working with them to try and encourage any women who feel unsafe and don't want to return to Iran to seek asylum. Now, we don't know the cases of all of the players, whether any of them indeed want to return to Iran, but certainly the pressure is on for the Australian government to do more to offer asylum. President Trump has also said that Prime Minister Anthony Albanese needs to do more to make sure they're protected, otherwise the US will do so. What we do know, though, is that the Iranian football team won't be going back to Iran anytime soon.
So, 10 days into the US-Israeli war with Iran, where do things stand, both for this region and for the wider world? And where could this conflict be heading? Those are just some of the questions that people are searching for the answers for most online. So let's try and help with that. Our chief international correspondent, Lise Doucette, joins me. Lise, what is your assessment of how the war is unfolding?
Anna, whenever a war is unleashed anywhere, a war has a might and a mind all of its own. And so too in this war, escalating and intensifying at a pace not seen in a region that's all too used to so many wars. And for many years now, this phrase has been bandied about. Is the world heading toward the Third World War? Will it happen on the edges of Ukraine? Will it happen on the edges of the Gaza Strip? And while it's unwise to use phrases like that, so loaded with emotion, this is now, with every day that passes, a war which is affecting all of the world. We're reporting today on how oil prices are surging and that inflation is rising, stocks are tumbling. More and more countries are being dragged into this war, either to protect their allies, such as Britain and France, countries in the Persian Gulf who are coming under attack from Iran, which says that it must attack its neighbors reluctantly because it must stop giving territory for American bases being used to attack Iran. And alongside this war, which continues on the ground, most affected of all are the people of Iran and also of Israel. There's also this escalating war of words with no sign that either side is ready to back down. And in this last 24 hours, the war has also become not just profoundly political for the Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States of America, but deeply personal too. It's about revenge. The new supreme leader of Iran, Mojtaba Khamenei, very much in his father's mold, ultra-conservative, a hardliner, close to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the real powerhouse in Iran now, saw not just his father assassinated in those first salvos on Saturday morning, he lost his mother, his wife, and a son too. In Iran, there's talk of revenge. And for President Trump, who always said that Mojtaba Khamenei was unacceptable, he too is saying he won't last long. All we can say with certainty is that this war will go on a lot longer than many people would dare to hope.
Thank you, Lise. Lise Doucette, our chief international correspondent. Well, whether you're watching or listening on YouTube, TikTok, BBC Sounds Radio or TV, thank you for being with us. And we'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the Iran War Today.